And the one thing, again, just so you know, as far as, California has little native gas production. It's about 5%. 95% comes from out of state. And the storage fields that we have, and we have 4, actually serve up to half and sometimes more of the gas requirements within Southern California. So these fields operate, although I said they're not a tank, they operate as a storage tank of when it's cold or when there is heavy electric demand and the gas-fired generators need them to produce electricity. That's when these fields become so critical for Southern California for its energy.
So there's no hope of shutting down this facility?
There's no plan to shut it down.
Can you also go into the question about installing the gas year-round?
Yes, that's one I'd like to chat with you if we can afterwards, because you should not be selling.
We'd all like to hear about that one.
Guys, we need to be respectful and not have a conversation. It's his question, let him have the answer.
Yeah, as far as if there's odor here all the time, that's one that we want to better understand, if we need to set additional types of monitoring of what it is. Again, this is about us hearing from you and learning.
It sounds to me the best monitoring we have is your employee, because your monitor doesn't work. Your employee has to come out to smell it, and that's when you guys notify. Because you're monitoring whatever system it is not working. Thank you.
I just want to make a comment. I appreciate your comments, and from them, I think it's worthwhile for us and other agencies, as regulatory agencies, to look very closely at where some of these other emissions might be coming from, because they do store mercaptan material at the site, and if there's any leaks or other causations of these odors being present all the time, we're going to take a close look at that. So I appreciate your comment on that.
Yes, Mr. Sultani, I'd also suggest that, if you've been detecting these odors for a year, in addition to calling SoCalGas, you also need to call my agency and let us know. I would really encourage you to do that. This isn't something that you should be subjected to for that amount of time, certainly. So please, you have the numbers, 1-800-CONSMAL. Please call us and let us know.
And two, I feel like there's regulations for the gas and detecting gas leaks, but this odorant is very, very offensive, and so just making sure that we're looking at that too, and get them some information on how you track, and are you as careful with the odorant as you are with the gas, because it really is an offensive and complicated thing for the community. Okay, Arlene?
Hello. Well, I'm thinking about the gas leak that they had due to erosion of lines just off of the Pacific Ocean. And so I want to know a couple things, a few things. One is, when were these lines last tested? How much erosion have you found in the past? How often should they be tested? That's for the beginning. And then I have some more to ask. Can you shut down this line as they did the one off the Pacific? So we'll start with those. Can you answer those in the meantime?
I'll try to remember that. As far as the inspections that we do different types of surveys on the well, and some surveys are done annually. We look at pressures, different types, daily, weekly, monthly.
When was the last time you looked at erosion of the lines?
Well, erosion inside these pipes, again, because of the vertical nature, we really don't see erosion inside. We will experience erosion up on the surface, and we have various monitoring programs and safety systems for it. Generally, we don't, up here, we don't see corrosion inside the pipeline. When I mentioned at a shallow level, again, we're not sure what caused it until we finish addressing this issue and we can inspect it. As far as shutting it off, again, different than a pipeline laying on the ground that would have valves on it. This is one where our access is on the surface, and the blockage I was talking about earlier with that, what we suspect is ice that's in there, it's not allowing us to essentially shut the valve by pumping the fluid down the well.
So you can't, okay. How old are these pipes that you have down there? Are they very old ones?
So this well was drilled in the early 50s. We've gone in, and when we acquired the field in 71 and converted it to storage, there was assessments done then. We occasionally go in and work on them and assess the condition that they're in at that time.
There are people here who are younger than that, When was the last environmental impact report done? Was one ever done? The reason I bring that up is because fracking is being done. You mentioned what brought up the fracking. You're 4,000 feet down. That's very far down. And I know that a lot of fracturing, hydraulic fracturing, is going on just above Porter Ranch. And they went in without an environmental impact report, and I wondered whether the gas company has been obeying the law, these other people aren't obeying the law, and do they own this property?
As far as, again, for our zone, we're actually about 8,000 feet down.
Your zone, but somebody
Yeah.
said, yeah, okay.
For the facility, we do not do hydraulic fracturing. We simply push the gas in and we pull it out. Initially, when the facility was permitted, it went through the process that was in place at that time. The project that was mentioned, I described earlier, it actually went through a very, very large, both environmental impact report study, and looked at the entire project and the facility when we went through that to start that project about a year and a half or 2 years ago.
I would like to ask you to consider doing a new environmental impact report for the future, because this was unexpected. This was not something that you anticipated. You didn't want it to happen. It's just a terrible accident. So now we have to do some new investigations, really in depth, because it's so close to residents. It's so close.
Thank you.
On
We will-
Dave's page, go ahead.
God bless us
I was
all.
just going to say again, part of this for us is the learning, as we hear from you, of what additional assessments we need to do.
We need to do a whole bunch of
So David Balin with the next question.
Good evening. Thank you for showing up tonight. We greatly appreciate you guys being here. As the president of the HOA of the Renaissance right across the street, I'm glad to see that you guys have monitoring stations along Cessna. But unfortunately, I think you guys have neglected to realize we have 1,500 plus residents right across the street. The hillside goes up probably an extra 500 or 600 feet higher. So I'm asking you guys, would you guys be willing to put another monitoring station in our residence?
The answer is we'll definitely want to work with you on the HOA on that. In fact, my storage station manager is on site here with us right now, so we're going to follow up with you.
Okay.
And I do recognize that the gate is at Cessna, but the community does step up, if I'm correct.
I'm on Via Botticelli,
Uh-huh.
and I've been aware of this smell for a long, long time. So I'd like to have a monitoring station up at the top where we have it, so that at least we're aware. You have one at the site, we have one on Cessna. Wouldn't it be great if we had one at the top of our community?
Certainly the top of the community, just on the side, is also the bottom of our lines. So Someone will work with you. If you can, after this meeting, approach me. I'd like to make sure we work with your HOA.
Okay, and then the other question I have, would you share with the community how the monitoring stations work?
Right now, the monitoring that we are doing is physical monitoring at the locations that were on the map. We're actually going out there. As I mentioned, right now, we're looking at long-term, what do we need to do in terms of a monitoring system or a monitoring plan? And once we get that settled in, we'll definitely share with the community.
Can you share with us how often they're monitored?
Which ones? The ones we're doing right now?
The ones along Cessna.
As I mentioned in my presentation, we're doing them twice daily minimum. And what we're trying to do is have one in the morning hours, because conditions change, as you know, and then one in the evening. I think one of the reports I looked at had a time of like early morning, before 3 in the morning. So we want to make sure we capture it when the wind is calm, it's cool, and it's also when the wind is high, and different temperatures. As you've seen this week, we've had a lot of different temperatures. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
The next question is Marco Maldonado. And you guys, we have about 6 questions to go and 16 public comments, which is 3 minutes apiece, that's another 45 minutes. So we may have to adjust that because we want you guys to have some time to talk to these guys afterwards. So we may shorten the time to 2 minutes, but just try to be as brief as you can so we can get everybody through.
Hi, my name is Mark Molnar. I live closer to the Reseda and Cessna area.
Speak up, we can't hear.
I live near the Reseda and Cessna area. My name is Mark Molnar. I'm a resident there. I purchased my house a couple of years ago, and I wasn't aware of a lot of these issues. Now I'm actually concerned, especially because there is a small community of kids. There's no mention nearby, and I do somewhat smell, I can smell the gas. Originally, I went to one of the meetings you guys had at, I think, Shepherd the Hills. So I had some questions for them, and some of the information that was given to me looks like a totally different page than what the information I'm getting now after the event happened, which wasn't that long ago. I think it was a Monday, then the leak was reported on Friday. When I started smelling the smell, I was in the middle of the week, when it was actually pretty strong. So my concerns were in reference to risk analysis. One of the ladies kind of answered one of my questions, which is the environmental impact study. I think that's, I would like to see something as soon as possible in terms of some form of, I would say, an agreement from your company saying that yes, we are looking into it, we will promise something in a year now or something that we are going to be doing an environmental impact study. The other one is gas release. I was also under understanding that you guys do monthlies, quarterlies, annualies, maintenance routines, where you actually do some form of, I guess in your facility, isolate lines, and then you try to extract as much as you can, and some of it gets released to the air, but that amount of release is very minimal. And then I was also told that you guys also report to AQND the amount of, whatever amount of gas gets released. I just wanted to confirm with AQND that those reports have been done, or that there is some form of communication between the gas company and AQND. Because if I get to hear that, and this is happening quarterly, semi-annually, and annually, so do they have that information, and is that information publicly known? Because if we're having this so-called issues to smell for a long time, then we have these amounts of gases in there you guys are schedulally releasing. Just want to know if they're aware of it. Because I know I heard it from your party. I just want to know if they heard it from your party.
I do want to address that the facility and operates under AQMD permits. So we have a lot of scrutiny and a lot of inspection that does go on a regular basis from the AQMD inspectors. There are times when we may have to take out a piece of pipe. For example, there may be a 1-foot section or valve somewhere that needs maintenance. And for safety, we are going to make sure that it's not under pressure. So that, on occasion, from a maintenance perspective, that does occur. So that may have been what you heard. I was not at the Shepherd of the Hills committee meeting.
Well, my understanding, you guys do monthly, quarterlies, annually, semi-annual maintenance routines. And there's a lot of isolations that happen. During the isolation, you can't retrieve open gases. Some of it has to get released, and those are very minimal. But then to what extent is minimal? I don't know what a reference number is. To me, I'm ignorant about that stuff. So I just want to make sure that those are being reported to AQMD in there. Somebody is monitoring or somebody is regulating how much you guys are releasing. Because we do live down the block, and it's not that hard to get to hear now, from my understanding, because I wasn't aware of this, that this is happening for a year or over a year. I don't get to smell as much, maybe I'm not as sensitive to it, but now it's a concern to me because it is an ongoing event, and if I plan to live here, I want to know how long this is planned to happen.
We do track and calculate the inventory of gas that is associated with that kind of maintenance activity. What I can also share with you is when we have a major, what we call eventing, because for safety reasons, for maintenance reasons, we do notify ahead of time AQMD. The reason we do that is oftentimes AQMD will end up getting phone calls about odorant issues, so we wanted to give them a heads up.
So do you guys, every time you guys do maintenance routines and have an expected release, does AQMD have a report of all those releases?
Not for small.
So what is small?
Small might be in a valve that's perhaps a foot section of pipe. Those kinds of things, they should not pose an issue downstream.
Well, my question is up to what levels is small? Are they regulating you to let you know that you need to report it to me?
I want to give, AQMD, I want to say again, they heavily regulate us, and I want to give them a chance to also respond. So.
So again, yes, so to briefly respond to your question around here. And so yes, they are under scrutiny by the AQMD, and as you do report, they are required to conduct analysis for leaks along the various pipelines. That's also something that we do. They are required, I believe, to report to us quarterly. So they do go through a monitoring program, a self-monitoring program. We also conduct inspections at the facility as well, and also look for leaks, either at components or valves or flanges and such at these kinds of facilities. You know, relative to the extent that we regulate down to them, they are permitted by us. There are permits that operate, and there are conditions around those permits. In terms of reporting to us, typically what they would be reporting to us would be a situation where there's a breakdown, and they would be seeking some sort of coverage from the district that would allow them to operate for a minimal period of time while they make the remedy. They're not required necessarily to call us when they're doing kind of maintenance activities and those kinds of things. That's really where the community comes into play. If there are odors that are detected during a time that they're servicing a line, that's the time to call the district and let us know that there's a situation going on out there.
So if it's self-governing, then if we don't notify anybody, then this leak could have gone for a long time without being noticed by anybody or any complaints, because it just kept going on. Nobody notifies there was a leak in other words.
Okay, then that'll have to be a different one. Yeah, we're gonna have to move on. We just have so many, for everyone to have a chance, we've got to go through grades.
Just one quick question in reference to the leaks. I know that this is only one well and we have an incident. How many more wells do we currently have being drilled and our analysis being changed or things slowing down? Where's the projection of new wells being drilled at this moment?
So on site, we have I think 114 or 15 underground injection and withdrawal wells. And these are similar to the zone and the depth of what you've seen. As part of the integrity program that Brett mentioned, we are replacing wells that have reached a life. And what we're trying to do as much as possible is minimize, actually reduce the number of wells where it makes sense. The newer wells have a capacity to work more efficiently. So if we have 2 wells and we can put it out of service because its life is pretty much cycled through, we'll go back and see if we can do it with 1 well if we can. So with newer components.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move to only 2 minutes per question, otherwise we're not gonna get through this and I'll public comment. So the next person is Rosemary Jenkins. And if I call your name and your question's already been answered, then go ahead and pass. Just in the interest of letting everyone have their voices heard.
Hello, I'm Rosemary Jenkins. I write for